What is up, everyone, and welcome to Drop In, where we have open, authentic conversations about all things mental health, including fears and phobias. I'm joined today by my stunning co-host, a solid attempt at a Dr. Jackie. How the hell are ya?
Fantastic, thriving, surviving, living on caffeine.
I cannot even take this. I can't keep a straight face.
The whole first 5 minutes of this episode is just us laughing at each other. Happy Halloween, everyone. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts with no video, you have no idea we dressed up as each other.
Stunning. You look fabulous.
This is hot and a pain in the ass.
Yeah, welcome to it.
Long hair is the worst.
Long hair do care.
This is way too much effort and energy. I would would cut all my hair off.
This is a very like Billy Ray Cyrus look for you, and I'm kind of into it.
I'm already sweating.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe because of the topic at hand, though. I don't know.
Oh, what is one of your irrational fears?
Mine?
Yes.
Me as Jackie?
I don't know how much longer I can do this. Wait, I need to just here is my my take of you as a human being, and then we can go back to our normal selves because I just cannot hang. I feel like this is just like you as a human being. All I do is watch Stephen A. Smith yell at people on ESPN and listen to videos on level volume 1000 and scream, "Let's go!" at random intervals during the day.
You could do a way better "let's go" than that.
Let's go!
I honestly think you have to practice the "let's go" from the soul. Like it has to let out something that feels repressed.
It's like your screech across the room.
The screech against the man, whoever the man is.
Oh my God. Okay. So, you as you, what is one of your irrational fears?
I feel like I have a number of them. Mm-hmm. I think a couple might meet criteria for an actual phobia, which we'll get into, but heights is in there, closed in spaces, giving blood, drawing blood. Mm-hmm. Those are the top three that are coming to mind. What about for you?
Ooh. God, I don't know. I feel like I have like a weird irrational fear of like clowns for no reason and probably bugs.
Your bug reaction is excessive.
Yeah. For no reason.
And extreme to the situation. I don't know how it impacts you day to day, but we'll be going for a walk. A gnat will go by your face. And the first 100 walks we went on, I kept thinking something was happening to you. I'm like, what?
Convulsing.
You're like, you're like, it was a bug. And I'm like, what?
You're stuck in your beard right now.
I can't. But that's accurate. And you like it doesn't prevent you from going outside.
No.
But your reaction to bugs, and your whole family does this.
Yeah.
It's a gnat. Why are you like it's an extreme reaction. But
full
again,
flail.
I think you have a fear there.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I would guess so if I have that extreme of a reaction. But I don't have the avoidance, which is interesting.
Which we should break down in a little bit. The difference between fears, phobias, and all that.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into all of that. All right, let's play a little game. I'm going to tell you a random phobia and the name, and you're going to guess what that phobia is of.
If I get 2 right. The plus or minus for this is 2.
Yeah.
Over under 2.
I'll be honestly impressed even if you get 2.
All right, the bar is literally just get 1.
Yeah. Okay,
Have
ready?
at it.
I am going to have to figure out how to pronounce these.
Oh, yeah, I hope you practice. I would never be able to.
Arachabutyrophobia.
Can you use that in a sentence?
I surely cannot. Arachabutyrophobia.
Fear of Zippo lighters.
A solid guess, but
butane
no.
lighters.
Fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth.
No, I get that. I can understand that. That gets touch and go.
For real. Nomophobia.
Nomophobia. Can I get the origin?
No, you cannot.
No. Fear of saying no.
Ooh, that was a good guess. Eh.
Great guess. Survey says.
Fear of being without your phone.
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, people are always like, oh, what if something happens? Okay, I can see it.
Mm-hmm. Globophobia.
I mean, that feels like it's going to be fear of globes, but that feels too... fear of snow globes.
Also, a solid guess, but fear of balloons.
All right. What now? Why can't that just be balloon phobia?
That would be way too obvious and way less fun.
We just don't do that in science. We got to think of like extravagant names. All right.
Lackanophobia.
A fear of lack of oxygen.
Fear of vegetables. You might have this.
Really don't like the taste of vegetables. I feel like nature could have done a much better job. They did a great job with fruit. Nature nailed it with fruit. Good job, nature.
Greens, but not so much.
Why? They're so bitter.
Oh my god.
Yeah, a little bit of zest.
Genophobia. Maybe it's genuphobia.
You were leading me towards genes. Genophobia? Mm-hmm. Fear of... I literally have nothing. Sega Genesis. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Fear of knees.
Of knees. Yeah. I mean, we're getting to the bottom of you can have a fear or phobia of anything.
Poganophobia.
Poganophobia. Mm-hmm. A fear of pogo sticks.
Fear of beards.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I can see it.
Oh. Venustrophobia.
I'm really... Yeah, getting one was like such an oversight. Say it again.
Venustrophobia.
Fear of veins.
That actually was a very good guess, but fear of beautiful women.
Yeah, I feel like mm-hmm. I mean, intimidation, sure. Yeah.
All right, last one.
I need a Hail Mary.
Omphalophobia.
Fear of Oompa Loompas.
Fear of belly buttons.
That's so hard.
I have no idea where these names come from, but I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, who is the namer of these things?
Right?
It must be like...
Is this all like Greek kind of...
The prefix like hints towards what the fear is. All right.
Interesting.
That was all fun and games, getting absolutely 0.
Should we talk about some of the most common ones?
Yeah, give me some of the most common.
Okay. Most common ones. Spiders.
Yeah.
So I'm not alone.
I think heights.
Heights.
Let me get some of these. Mm-hmm. Closed-in spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, needles, blood.
Yes.
Hospitals, I don't know if they differentiate. Fear of weather.
Mm-hmm. Thunder and lightning,
Yep.
especially. Yeah.
Strangers.
Mm.
What else you got?
Snakes.
Oh yeah, duh.
You said heights, right?
Yeah.
Flying. Top
Yes.
three.
Yeah, definitely.
Dogs.
Yep. Yep.
Public speaking.
Yeah, see, how am I missing these? Of course. Yeah.
Driving is another one.
Yeah. It's yeah, common things.
Yeah. Those are top common ones. Are you surprised by any of those?
No. Now that you say them, because it's things we often interface with, like dogs are common. In our modern lives, we fly a lot. We're in the car all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're hinting at one of the things of like fears can be developed,
Mm-hmm.
aka little Albert.
Yes.
We can have bad associations with things by collecting bad experiences, which develop into a full phobia.
Yes.
When you think about the difference between having a fear of something and meeting criteria for a phobia, what is the difference?
From the way that I conceptualize it is a fear is a feeling that you have in response to something. That's very normal.
Mm.
It's very normal to feel fearful of things or anxious about something. That's very rational. That's a part of like our human evolution to keep us safe, keep us protected. When it becomes a phobia is once it starts to get to an irrational point and an extreme reaction that leads to avoidance of that thing or avoidance of anything that might remind you of that or panic attacks about that particular thing. And that is something that is more of a kind of impeding you in terms of your functioning as well. So that's usually the differentiating factors between what is a normal fear response versus what might be more phobic.
Right. And it's like accepting that having fear is just part of the human experience,
Mm-hmm.
activated through the amygdala.
Mm-hmm.
Fear can get triggered for a lot of different sort of survival or unknown situations. Anxiety is sort of a future oriented feeling of
Mm-hmm.
worrying about something. And you're right, phobia impacts our day to day living.
Right.
It has that nebulous term attached to it that we always say of clinical significance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about this even for myself. I think about it of I experience a fear of heights that's not at a phobic level, aka if we're on a high rise, like your old apartment or something, I'll
Mm-hmm.
go on the balcony.
Mm-hmm.
I won't feel great about it, but I'll
Right.
go on it.
Yeah.
I'm not like leaning over the edge or anything like that. I might put my hand on the rail, feel a little shaky.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go on the roof of our house. I'll go on the ladder to put up Christmas lights, whatever. I'm not saying I feel great about it, but I have a full phobia of closed in spaces from my MRI experiences.
Mm-hmm.
That it becomes the more tight the space, the more I just can't do it. In terms of I have a panic attack, a strong reaction,
Right.
and use medication and other things to sort of navigate those. And my pull
Right.
is towards avoidance.
Right. And it's usually one specific thing or like specific things, right? It's not generalized anxiety disorder that it's about all things in your day-to-day life experience. It's more about this one specific thing that causes such an intense reaction within the body that you feel like you either can't interface with that thing or you avoid it at all costs or try to at the best of your ability.
Absolutely. And the thing is that's so hard about this is avoidance makes it worse.
Right.
And yet it's our tendency of like,
Mm-hmm.
when I see that MRI machine, my mind just says, F
Run.
no,
Yeah.
get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Don't. And The hard part is that creates and sort of sustains this pattern in the brain of I see this object, just like the little Albert experience. I see the white bunny
Right.
or anything fuzzy, and I immediately have a, panic, crying sort of reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of pulls me towards, in general, where do either fears or phobias come from?
Yeah, and they can come from different places, right?
Right.
Sometimes it is previous experiences, right? So that could be you were bit by a dog when you were a kid, so now you have a fear of dogs, or, something happened that, you were experiencing something terrifying or traumatic, and now you are afraid of things that remind you of that, or something associated with that, versus what was the other part of that question?
Yeah, just sort of discussing in general where they come from.
Yeah, so that would be one of the main things, is like you had a previous experience that potentially made you phobic of that thing. But it could come from other places too that we might not even necessarily have more that conscious awareness of.
Yeah, and there's some arguments of some of these things are just, genetic, passed down
Mm-hmm.
through our biology.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be for obvious reasons of like, why would we want our children to have a natural fear of heights? Evolutionarily, for
Right.
obvious reasons, they don't go, running off the hill or the cliff, and they can sort of detect the edge of something.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that part of, there is that biological sort of passing.
Right.
But then from there, yeah, dogs is a great example because you think of the variability people feel,
Mm-hmm.
when you think of a dog, a lot of people will feel like, oh my God, like happy, excited, or some people are just indifferent. There is
Mm-hmm.
that. But dogs elicit just such a reaction where other people, again, instantly, they feel uneasy.
Right.
And they're like, I don't trust that dog.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust being around them. I'd rather not go around them. I know the neighbor's house at the end, that dog's gotten out a few times. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to walk by that house anymore.
Right.
And now we start to see the matriculation from I don't like dogs to I don't really trust dogs to I'm avoiding any situation where there might be a dog.
Right. And I think, again, the avoidance piece of it is so hallmark to phobias and anxiety in a diagnostic way. And the challenge with that a lot of times is that that is the very thing that is keeping that phobia or fear alive and actually exacerbating it. Because the more we avoid something, the more we're basically communicating to our bodies that that thing is, in fact, just as scary, if not more scary, than we are assessing it to be.
It's so absolutely. And it's so interesting in session when people talk about things that you're sort of wondering as a therapist, like, is this meeting criteria for a phobia? It's really all in their body. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's this like tension you see. There's like almost like that twitch avoidance. You just see it all in their body. People sometimes will have a hard time even talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll lead into treatments here of like, what do we do about this? And the good news is for phobias, there's a lot we can do.
Right.
But again, when somebody has a fear of something, they might be able to talk about dogs. They could look at pictures of dogs. You could watch some videos.
Mm-hmm.
They might even walk by the neighbor's house. And there's a bit of unease, maybe. But again, when we're really talking about phobias, you're in the room with someone and the topic gets brought up in their body, and they'll tell you, oh, I don't like talking about this.
Right.
Like this level of automatic sort of fear response and avoidance is primed.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, I think it also has to do with how often you might potentially be interfacing with that phobia too. So I have some clients who do have a phobia of flying, but they don't fly very often. So it's not something that comes up frequently for them. And it's not something that really impedes their daily functioning. However, in the case of driving or dogs or something that does come up on a more regular basis, those are the things that we really want to kind of dive into and make sure that we're kind of managing some of those symptoms and we have tools for that.
It becomes really interesting to, dissect and get in the nuance of each person,
Mm-hmm.
because I think when you do have a phobia, it's really good to it's real easy in practice to dismiss it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's rare that someone sort of recognizes it's a problem and necessarily wants to do something about it. Of course that exists, but I'm just saying of like in those examples, there's always the follow-up questions I come to of like, how often do you take road trips in the car? Oh, a lot. Have you found yourself ever being like, oh, it'd have been a lot easier if we just flew,
Mm.
but you didn't
Mm-hmm.
because of
Right.
you convinced yourself
Mm-hmm.
flying again in your mind is dangerous, bad, avoid. So you're like, oh, road trip's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I love a good road trip. And these are the things, again, that's nuance and there's variability, but it's just interesting that you'll see this of like, we can convince ourselves that the phobia is not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that big of a deal. I just don't walk in grass at all because there could be a spider, but I don't need to walk across grass.
Mm-hmm.
And there's sort of this assessment that can go on of like, is this something we've convinced ourselves, or is it truly not flying doesn't impede your life?
Right.
Because again, in some situations, certainly that could be true.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there's something, ingrained in a lot of phobias that there's
Yeah.
the convincing of it's not a big deal because you don't want to go towards it at all, which is understandable. That's
Right.
the whole nature of this thing.
Right. And it's interesting because usually with phobias, that is one of the clearest things that people are the most aware of that they have in terms of mental health is I know that I have a phobia of enclosed spaces or
Mm.
claustrophobia, something like that. Um, and I also think it's one of the most avoided things in treatment because of exactly what you're saying. Like, I don't really want to talk about this, or I'm going to minimize the effects of that for myself so that I don't really have to like face that because that feels very scary and intimidating.
Have you ever had anything that's close to this?
That's a really good question. I I don't think so.
Yeah, I haven't experienced that from you. So I'm just asking. I kind of feel
No.
like I'm so vocal about mine.
I
Like we used to be at
know.
your apartment. I'd be like, I'm putting my hand on the ledge here. And again, sort of lean into it. But then when
Yeah,
we started doing MRIs for my neuro condition, I was upfront about that. I'm like, I'm letting you
right.
know this is hard for me.
Right. Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think my fear response is very altered, if we're being real. Like, even the times that you try to scare me and like sneak up on me and stuff, I don't have a fear response. And the opposite is also true. Like, when you're not trying to like sneak up on me or like scare me, I like startle. So I think my fear response is just like, slightly broken in some way.
That is disturbing to me. I don't understand that quality about you of like why I hide behind the front door and you like come
This
in.
literally happened yesterday.
Do you know my reaction? I would rocket through the roof of like you walk in and there's just enough space for me to hide. And so you pivot to shut the door and there's just someone standing there staring at you. And you just go, oh, hey. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Is your amygdala offline?
I think honestly, there is this weird like ADHD quality where you're super calm in like crisis stress situations, but like random basic things freak you out or like become an issue.
We're going to a haunted house this weekend, so I'm going to test this theory.
Oh, are we? Is this a thing?
Yeah, you didn't know about this. We're going now. We're definitely going to go. 'Cause I want to see, but I guess maybe that whole context is filled with fear, jump scare, and all these things.
Yeah. I mean, do you like being scared?
And this is a good conversation to get into. Being scared gives you that adrenaline rush.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always made sense to me, like why people like scary movies and scary shows. You get that hit of adrenaline of like,
Yeah.
boom, like I'm up.
Right.
And if you're going through your days and your days are sort of understimulated, it makes sense to me why. However, in having harm OCD, I think the issue I run into is images don't leave my brain quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem of like, I like haunted houses. I think I have a long history of going. Ohio has the most haunted houses per state by a long shot.
That does not surprise me at all.
You can look this
just
up.
have like miles and miles and miles of cornfields and like haunted everything.
Yeah, that's true. And it's amazing. So you just get used to it as a kid of like Halloween's a big deal in Ohio and there's haunted houses everywhere. But watching, especially a modern horror film,
it's intense.
I can't. Like my brain for days and weeks after can't pivot the imagery. You know, I'm trying to eat my damn cereal and like I'm getting reoccurring jump scares. So that's a long-winded way, but like something about being in person at a haunted house, oddly, I don't know. Maybe I've been exposed enough.
Yeah.
That just I categorize it in my brain as like fun and where like the movie starts to get to me.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's a big difference between the image of something like gory or something creepy that you're seeing happen to someone like in a movie or video or something versus a haunted house. You know that you're not going to physically get harmed and that this is just like for funsies kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think you can compartmentalize those two things differently.
I think so because, and again, I have like memories of being in like third grade of like my brother's birthday party. And every year, we went to a haunted house because it was around, his birthday's around Halloween. And so you're just used to like running through like, like, I don't know. Yeah. It's more like nostalgia and fun.
Yeah.
But that broaches to the whole point of what do we do about phobias? The good news is they are highly treatable.
Yes.
What comes to mind of like paths forward to lessen or completely extinguish a phobia?
Yeah. Well, medication is always an option for, especially if you're not exposed to that thing frequently. But especially when it comes to therapy and actually extinguishing the phobia itself, first thing that comes to mind for me is exposure and desensitization. So we're essentially going little by little and interacting with that phobia or even imagining that phobia. So we kind of do it on this hierarchy that you're looking at. Okay, what is the least amount of fear that you have kind of exposed to this thing?
So like for a lot of people that would be, can we look at an image of?
Right. Or envision that in your brain.
Talk about.
Yeah. And then we start to pair that with coping tools and relaxation techniques. So as you go up this kind of ladder or tier of graded exposures or graded anxieties related to that thing, we start to pair each one of those things with relaxation techniques. And little by little, you kind of inch up that ladder in a way that feels more bite-sized and not so overwhelming with fear, that as you get higher up on that list, you start to not have quite as much of a reaction to it. And you know how to then counteract the reaction that you do have.
So well said. It's about pivoting the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, even we use a classic example of spiders,
Mm-hmm.
of someone talking about spiders could be the, the top point,
Mm-hmm.
or I guess the bottom point. I always list it as like the top of the list. I'd put like number one is sort of the thing you can do sort of the easiest right now that
Mm-hmm.
you still might have a little fear reaction to and some stress. So I guess I work from top to
Yeah.
bottom with knowing the bottom is the hardest thing.
Okay.
So I guess language is coming into play here, but the first thing on the list would be, can we talk about it a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about your fear of spiders? How are you feeling? What are you noticing in the body? But then it's pivoting the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Just by doing the exposure, you're doing the opposite of avoidance.
Right.
We're helping create new pathways.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I talked about spiders for 5 minutes, talked about my experiences with them, maybe some details about them, this and that, and I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I, had some stress reaction, but we incorporated maybe the body scan, maybe some different, deep breathing. There's a lot of things you can do within there to sort of help with the regulation, but that's sort of the pivoting point. And then maybe we can look at a picture of a spider, on the phone together.
Mm-hmm.
We can bring in a fake spider,
Mm-hmm.
watch some videos of spiders.
Mm-hmm.
We can get a spider in the room with us. And then ultimately, maybe we can have a spider, close by. Maybe we can even have a pet spider that you eventually hold. It sort of depends, and there's nuance here, but just as an example
Right.
of sort of, and people do this with flying as well.
Totally.
We talk about flying, watch videos on flying.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely setups where you can, board a plane. There's like programs where you
Right.
can do that to help sensitize the plane's not going anywhere. You're just practicing the boarding of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually the goal is for you to be able to take a flight somewhere.
Right. Exactly. And same thing, even like with driving, you can sit in the car in the driver's seat. You can play video games, even that sometimes there's like virtual reality goggles now.
That is one of
so cool.
The biggest like leaps in technology helping therapy.
Yes.
The virtual exposure, huge.
Yes. And that because it looks so real now.
Yeah,
like the technology is incredible. So you can utilize virtual reality if, your therapist has access to that. But then even doing small increments. So maybe it is driving in a parking lot first, then driving in a non-crowded place on a road. Then it is driving on a street that has some cars, and then it's, moving up that ladder or down the list, however you want to look at it. But essentially what we're doing is we're rewiring the circuitry in our nervous system to say, this thing that once was scary, that I had this very visceral reaction to, I'm now pairing those stimuli with a calm nervous system and calming techniques and calming sensations within the body. And that is essentially what is rewiring the circuitry.
Absolutely. And you might not feel calm. That's the whole point. But you tolerate the anxiety, the fear.
Right.
And interesting, another example, since I'm the one that has way more fear and phobia examples, you over there just numb to the world.
Casual.
Must be nice to be completely numbed out. Now that has its own negatives, of course. But giving blood has been one that I've really struggled with. And it's interesting, that came from a bad experience of like, I never minded giving blood. It was all good. And then one time I passed out bad. And it was, of course, instilled this like fear in me. What the hell was that? I felt like trash the rest of the day. And then it was sort of like, I don't like giving blood because what if that happens again? And it happened the next time. So I had the back-to-back experiences of not even giving much blood, just like your yearly sort of checkup, and just like back to back fainting, passing out. And you're like, damn it. Like, what? So then I was afraid every time I go, I'm like, I don't want to pass out.
Right.
I don't want this to happen. And what's been really helpful for me is using some of these like deep breathing, listening to, the music on my phone to help with that. And the cognitive part is so important here. And sometimes that doesn't get talked about, is like, I have to be careful what I'm telling myself.
Right.
Because it can be so easy to be like, again, like, this is unnatural. This is bad. Like, this thing should be avoided. Versus to say, people do this all day, every day. People give blood all the time. The narrative I have in my hand when I see I forget the technical term of someone who draws blood. Phlebotomist, which I think is such a cool term. But when I see them, I'm immediately saying they do this all day, every day. Boom, 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 boom. You go to Quest, that's where I go. I'm not promoting them, but you go in there, they're turning it over like pop, 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 pop. And so I'm like, they do this all day, every day. Where is my breath right now? If it's shallow and short, that's sympathetic. If I can slow my exhales and get it a little deeper, better. And then, which I see you over there like, oh, what else are you going to tell me to do? I use my supportive wife over here, my great partner, and you've come with me the last 3 times. And I've had 0 issues.
Yeah.
You're usually, and this is, again, I know not everyone will have this, but nowadays you can pull up a YouTube video. You can do a lot of things. You can have this podcast in your ear as you're sort of leaning in as a distraction. You always are asking me some in-depth question. And you get my mind so pivoted that the breathing work, the cognitive switchover, and then you sort of being like, ask me some nuanced thing that I'm going to just yap about. All of a sudden we're done. And I'm like, yeah.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
And I might feel things. And the last one, I had a ton of vials to draw. So like, it's bad when they're like, you have a lot to do today. And I'm like, great.
Fantastic. Love that for me.
Again, very detailed example, but that had reached the point of like full avoidance for me, of like a phobia of like, I don't want to pass out, so I don't want to do this. I don't want to go. And yet we need yearly blood work at least to know what's going on in our bodies.
Yeah. And it's interesting because even talking through that example, some of the phobias we think are of either needles or we think are something like that. And a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's actually the physical sensations, right, that we experience. So like passing out or dizziness or something to that effect of like, I have a phobia of, like vomiting or getting sick or passing out, something to that effect. And there's actually ways that we can simulate some of those feelings to a lesser degree and then kind of do an exposure even with that. So, I've even done this before where like you have someone kind of spin around on a chair a couple of times to simulate that like dizzy kind of wobbly feeling. And that then becomes the exposure that we're doing. So it's very important to actually talk through what it is and what's associated with that phobia, because sometimes we think that it's something and it's actually something else underneath it.
Right. It again gets so nuanced for people. But I think the thing of promise is that you can make this pivot with your nervous system and lean in, and you will habituate.
Yes.
It's not 1-to-1. I shouldn't say you can't. I think the expectation, especially when I use the example of like me giving blood, I can't expect to feel nothing.
Right.
And I don't, meaning I'm like, I could feel some anxiety about this. I can feel some stress. But as I'm going through the process, what am I telling myself? Where's my breath? What is my mind focused on? Because my mind, even scrolling reels, better for me as a distraction to get through the event.
Right.
And these are conversations we have all the time, you know, with people, because having a fear of flying, very common.
Mm-hmm.
The phobia of flying, sure, less, but people have a lot of apprehension about flying. And the thing I talk through a lot in therapy is like, let's talk through the full game plan.
Yeah.
What are we bringing on the flight? What are we doing before the flight?
Mm-hmm.
You know, are we snacking? Are we food? What movie are we downloading? We got a series? How long is this flight? But really having a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and then talking through, yes, when emotions come up, what do we do about that?
Mm-hmm.
What's helpful?
Right.
Is there a snack that helps sort of pivot it? Do we have that notes app in our phone open of the mantras, things we want to tell ourselves to ground, to sort of come back?
Right.
Of there's plenty of flights in the air, hundreds,
Mm-hmm.
right, at any time.
I guess that would be like the closest thing to a phobia that I have.
Flying?
Not even necessarily flying, throwing up on a plane, which is very
Oh,
specific
yeah.
because
Yeah.
I get very like motion sick,
When we
and
land.
I have thrown up multiple times when I was a kid on a plane.
Well, and what do you do about that?
Lots of deep breathing.
Yes, I see that in you. I can't believe we didn't.
I
I'm
know,
glad
that's so
we
funny.
finally got
As
to it.
you
I'm like,
were
how do you have nothing in
as you
this
were talking
realm?
about that, I was like, oh, I guess that's actually one of the ones. But like now I kind of don't even necessarily associate that with a phobia because now I've learned
Work through.
a lot of the techniques of like I can take medication that's for motion sickness, so it reduces it some. And then deep breathing, watching videos, just kind of like closing my eyes and breathing through and knowing the sensations. But it is also a cognitive kind of game at the same time of
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, what is the worst that is going to happen? If I do get sick, okay, I get sick and there's things around me that I can use or whatever. And it is what it is, kind of thing. And I'll be okay. It's not going to be a life or death kind of situation. And really reminding myself that if the worst case scenario happens, I'll still be okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think that works for a lot of situations. I
Mm-hmm.
really do. I think in some people are thinking about their particular phobia right now. And they're like, no, the worst case scenario is death.
Right. And
And,
for some,
you know,
yes.
that doesn't necessarily work.
Right.
Um, and so you're sort of pivoting towards of like, if I live my life letting the extreme and rare dictate,
Mm-hmm.
do I live my life?
Right.
And that's sort of the basis of like the philosophy of, can I accept that this is controlling me,
Mm-hmm.
and it is worth sort of moving to the other side of me being able to make choice in the reality that I can't control everything, but I can accept that very rare things rarely happen.
Yeah.
And we always do the pivots, right? Of like, you get in the car every day. People with car phobias are now like, what do you mean? But,
Yeah.
you know, there's things we do every day that you can sort of leverage of like, yeah, and that statistically, you know, there's more accidents in another realm.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always the cognitive switchover. There's always the work through. There's the work we put into the nervous system. I think body scan meditation is one of the best ones because you can learn. There's so many sensations going on in the body at any one time.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn to sort of pivot from them, accept them, notice with curiosity, and not just be hyper focused on the stress, the tension, or anything else.
Right. And even in terms of the science behind a lot of these mechanisms and treatments, exposure to that phobia and that specific stimuli is something that biologically, the more we are exposed to it, the less responsive our bodies will be to it. So, that is another thing that I repeatedly talk through with clients too, is that naturally and biologically, the more we talk about it, think about it, and talk through navigating that uncomfortable feeling or that scary stimulus, the less responsive your body will be, the less anxious you will feel about that thing.
Absolutely. And I think in some ways you can reflect on, think of fears you have that maybe don't meet criteria for a phobia. Think how you've worked sort of through those.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, like, the example for me is I've never lived in a high-rise apartment, ever. But in the experiences of when I would come to your apartment, I'd always go on that damn balcony because I knew if I avoided the balcony, this could get worse.
Yeah.
And I still do it when we go to hotels and stuff like that. I'll go out on them. I'll put my hand on the rail and I'll like stand there and breathe. And if, for example, you did that every morning in your high-rise apartment, you will habituate.
Yes.
You'll just get used to grabbing your coffee, have your phone. You'll be on that balcony and your body will get used to it of like, oh, this doesn't need to be avoided. This is okay.
Right.
But I think using those examples where it's not at the Mach 10 level that we experience with phobias allows you to sort of see of like, okay, this is the path. It doesn't feel great. Everybody, when you think of exposure to something that is triggering for you, you get that reaction of like, no.
Right.
And when you think about it for lesser things, you're like, oh yeah, maybe I didn't like giving speeches, but after I went through the whole speech course, I was okay with it.
Right.
I could go up there and give a speech. But again, when you have the phobia of, it's a lot harder to envision of like, as this comes down, the pathway will widen and it will get easier. How about some listener questions?
Let's do it.
From around the world. I feel like this should have been you if you were being me, but
yeah, I'm so thrown off being on this side of the room.
I like talk about things you habituate to.
It is so weird.
Like the long hair thing, I'm like, I don't know how any long-haired person tolerates this. I'd immediately be like, chop it off.
Pain in the ass.
Get this out of my face. I literally can't stand it. But yeah, just being oriented to this side of the room.
I know.
I can see why this is sort of better though for me to sit over here because I'm like looking out the window, looking at iguanas on the trees.
Okay, that is my point. We put the ADHD person on that side to look out the window. That was poor life choices.
I was giving you the nicer camera for full disclosure. Now you got the 8-bit camera that I usually have.
Probably better with this look right now.
Oh, it's so funny. Hey, thank you as always for your questions. We always appreciate it. Special shout out. One of my college roommates.
Yeah.
AJ, what up? What's happening, AJ? Great to hear from you. But AJ and Heidi from Egypt, you both had similar questions. AJ said, would love to be able to learn more about how to better manage my fear of needles, blood, hospitals, doctors. And Heidi from Egypt, very, very similar of like tensing up when you have to get blood drawn. And I know we touched on this a little bit in what I've shared. When you think about this, you know, is this something you hear commonly as a therapist? What do you lean towards?
Yes, definitely common. Probably one of the most common things. Again, one of the first things that I do when someone comes to me with a fear or phobia is really talking through what actually is it that you are worried about, concerned about, fearful of, because sometimes we think that it's going to the doctor, or sometimes we think that it is, you know, giving blood or something to that effect, but it's actually the fear of bad results or passing out or something else underneath that. So the more specific we can be and the more we can figure out what actually is underneath that, then we can figure out what the best course of action is. A lot of times it is coming from a previous experience, whether it was you or someone else having a negative experience with a doctor or, you know, a blood draw or something to that effect. So we can look at previous things that might be causing that. But then again, going through exposures, going through calming techniques and relaxation strategies and being able to then do the exposures and the pairing of that.
Absolutely. And it is about, this is related to Heidi in Egypt. The tensing up is something that would need like a lot of practice because it's understandable. Your
Right.
body's going deep into that fear response. You know, your amygdala is fully online and your body is so tense. To me, the work there, because they go down to say of like, oh, they weren't able to draw the blood because I was so tense. And now I'm like, what do I do? The work there would be completely in how do we get you in a more parasympathetic state?
Yes.
And sort of simulating that of like, I'll pretend, you know, to be, you know, I'm getting ready over here with a pencil or something and I'm about to draw your blood. What will you be doing? And this is where get the earbud in. We're doing, you know, a meditation. We're doing a body scan. We're practicing getting you out of that sympathetic state. Because once you're in a full sympathetic state, it's really hard.
Yeah.
And that's the part that like I feel like needs to be validated of it's all the practice and the work on the front end and sort of talking it through, having a strategy that gets you more relaxed. Yeah, because we wouldn't want your muscles to be obviously online because we're sort of far down the panic path at that point.
Right. And even visualization, which we've talked about in
Yep.
previous episodes, this is one of those instances where that can be super helpful of even practicing in your mind what that might look like. So even practicing getting a little bit nervous, feeling a little bit tense, and then practicing even in your imagery in your mind what it is that you're going to do and kind of practicing, like Justin was saying, all of those steps and relaxation tools that you're going to utilize so that it becomes almost second nature when you're in the actual situation that, okay, if and when my body starts to respond and react in this way, I know exactly what to do. And that's that practice piece that we're going over and repeating in our minds so that it becomes more automatic.
Lot of practice. Lot of practice. And that's the thing that unfortunately we don't do on our own, usually with the fear or phobia, because we're avoiding it. And that makes sense.
Right.
So, but I think that opens up a lot of hope and promise of if I practice this regularly, I can certainly, and we see it all the time, people are like, oh my gosh, like it went by so fast. I was doing my meditation, I was listening to my podcast, I was working on my deep breathing. And that's the thing, especially for me in blood draws. That's the first thought I always have when they're like, put on the gauze and we're done. I'm like, God, that was 2 seconds. Even when they had to do a lot of vials, I was like, that was it.
Yeah.
And you're just amazed because I'm like, that is all the practice we put in. That's all the work of like regulating my nervous system. What am I telling myself? Where is my breath? And sort of like, and what am I doing in this moment?
Right.
Because if I'm just sitting there holding my breath, being like, this is taking forever, what am I noticing in my body? No.
Right.
Where could I put my energy? I've heard people writing emails, doing work, locking into anything else of like, oh, I was just like immediately like, you know, finishing up this email that I had been avoiding ironically, and then they were done doing this other thing. So again, there's a lot of uniqueness and strategy in there, but it's certainly we can pivot the body and the mind. Shannon from Massachusetts. My ex used to make fun of me for one of my fears. It wasn't funny. When does it cross the line from innocent fun to downright cruel?
That's a very good question. And I hate that that happened to you. I think anytime someone knows that you have a fear or phobia and they are using that either against you or making fun of something that truly is a fear or phobia to you, that to me is usually a crossing of a line. That if I tell you that something hits really close to home for me or is a sensitive area or sensitive topic for me, and you're using that against me or trying to make fun of me because of that, that to me is a hard boundary. Like, we are going to have a conversation about that, and I'm going to tell you that's off limits to make fun of me for or to poke fun at me about, because that is something so sensitive. And if that continues, that's a hard boundary for me. So I think no one should ever make you feel badly for something that you're struggling with.
Yeah, to me, it's after the first time you tell them.
Right.
And this is where it's like, I know lots of people, especially in our field, lots of people use humor to cope.
Sure.
And it's certainly not a strategy when you're in therapy as a therapist or sort of out there that you test off the bat, because it has risk to it. But even if someone does or did, to me, the point is not that they did once, it's whatever happens after that.
Right.
If I give you feedback, hey, I don't like joke about this. This actually really controls my life and I hate it. To me, I'm like, that's the feedback.
Right.
What happens next, to me, I give you grace once again, because I'm like, I get it. Maybe you have a phobia and you cope by joking about it. Like, sure. But if I'm telling you I don't like that, that's where it's like, this becomes a relationship issue.
Right.
Of you're not respecting the feedback I'm giving you. Especially if you're like, yeah, hey, I don't find that funny. I don't like it when you joke around.
Right.
But I think it gets nuanced in all kinds of ways around mental health. Of course, I'm a believer and I enjoy coping through humor, but I also we got to get real serious about things sometimes.
Right.
And there's some things that's like, okay, I might sort of joke about certain aspects of, maybe my OCD or my phobias or this or that. But that doesn't mean like I expect you to as well.
Right.
And so, again, I think there's individual difference there. And I see this all over the internet. I'll see people joking about their depression. I'll see people joking about their anxiety. And I'm not like, why would you do that? I understand why you would.
Right. It's one thing to joke about it for yourself. It's another thing for someone to make fun of you for something that is a sensitive area for you.
And I think in the humanness, some people, we project all the time. We're always projecting. Having awareness of that is the important part. Sometimes we can project, I joke about it, maybe you will. And when you find out, no, you don't, that's the moment. You're like, oh, my bad. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Won't do that again. But if someone continues to use it against you, yeah, there's a certain level of ignorance. And again, that's getting to a deeper relationship issue of like, why can't you hold the feedback I gave you?
Right.
That to me is like a bigger issue there of like,
right.
I'm concerned you're not internalizing me and the feedback I gave you.
Yeah.
And again, no, we don't do things perfectly, but is there some effort, energy, intent? Taylor from Alberta. Oh, Canada. How do I know if it's a fear or OCD? Here we go. Or is OCD a fear? The fear versus OCD, e.g. being terrified of sharp objects. Got you, fam. Especially in having OCD. The difference lies if you have a fear of sharp objects, the core of that fear is the sharp object itself. When it's OCD, the fear at the core is I'm going to lose control, and it's about me as a person. So it's this very nuanced difference. The OCD is about me as a person. I'm afraid I'm going to lose control if I have this knife and I might hurt someone or hurt myself or whatever. Where if you have the fear of, I'm afraid of this sharp object itself, that something sort of may happen, but it's not related to me.
Right. That was a really good question.
It's so nuanced, and it can be a bit of both. And that's when you start to see if like it's both, like OCD and this is a phobia. But again, you get this like difference there of I don't want to be around that sharp object. It's like, why? And sort of how people explain and talk about that is the difference. And me having harm OCD, it is about me. I don't want to sort of like feel like I'm losing control and have these images come up in my head. But it's not about the object itself. Where like in a fear or phobia, it's about the object.
Right. which is why it's so important to actually assess where a lot of that fear or physiological response is coming from, both in that example and also even sometimes with like needles and doctors and all of that, because it could be OCD, it could be a phobia, it could be a trauma response. So there are all of these different potential underlying things.
Yeah, and it's not to poke fun or anything like that, but we had, when I was getting the blood draws, we had 2 people in a row who was like, how do you not like needles, but you got all those tattoos? And it's just like the trap people fall for.
Right.
And I'm like, it's not about the needle.
Right.
It's about passing out.
Right.
I don't want to pass out today. Ruins my damn day.
Was not on my agenda.
Wasn't on my agenda to have a full pass out and then have to come back awake and deal with the headache and anywho. But yeah, because we got that back-to-back times. Like, you got all those tattoos, you don't like needles? And I'm like, no, see, it's not about
that.
It's not that. But I get it. I understand. People take the one example and think that's it, and it might not be that.
Right.
Anonymous from Maryland. I have a fear of fire because I was in a fire. It's been 10 years and I don't know how to get over it. I can't light candles as a result, and I panic anytime there's a fire alarm or smoke detector that goes off and experience it all over again.
Yeah, which again, this is where the history and assessment kind of comes into play.
Right.
Because that sounds a lot like PTSD.
Yeah.
And that treatment, while it may be similar, can be a little bit different. And so that's why there's a real important aspect of assessing where some of the phobias and avoidance are coming from, because the treatment itself might be different.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, man, that sounds like PTSD and trauma.
Yeah.
And then, so, you get pulled towards of like, oh, again, there's a narrative here. You can get pulled to EMDR, ART, or like a narrative or cognitive approach. But if there's a story attached and experience,
right,
that's different from people where it's less so. Again, I keep using myself as an example, but like, I don't really have a narrative to passing out. I shared it a little bit, but it's not a trauma narrative.
Right.
It was an unpleasant experience. I didn't like passing out, and it informed sort of the phobia, but it's not the same as like if I took space. I told that story in like 60 seconds. There's nothing more in depth there.
Right.
Where in some, trauma experiences, you're like, there might be a lot to process and unpack and work through of like surviving a fire. And maybe so, maybe not. We can't know. But in what you're describing, yeah, I get pulled towards there's a story here too.
Right.
Boy, I love these thoughtful questions.
So amazing. Thank you always for all of your questions. We love them. I
feel like you have to do the sign off.
I don't even know how to do that. I don't pay attention during your sign off.
You don't listen to me? You're going to have to wing it.
All I know is that I say bye and you say peace. That's about it.
You don't know one single thing I say.
No.
I would then organically, I just want to see how you end this episode.
So funny. No, I literally don't. I think I just start dissociating at that point, and I'm just already mentally like packing up all of our stuff.
Wow.
Really goes to show our roles on this podcast.
There's a psychological event there to be had. You don't hear a word. At least I got one on you that you don't listen. I got one thing and you never listen to me.
All right, that's fair.
Because otherwise it's 100 examples you can give me. I'm like, I walk out of the room after I ask you a question. Gosh, my anxiety just takes me out of spaces and places. Hey, so we appreciate you. Take notes on this.
Taking notes.
We appreciate you being here. You know what else we appreciate? We love a review. We love a comment. We love your questions every week. Drop this episode in the group chat. Talk about fears and phobias. And happy Halloween. to everyone out there. Get some great candy.
Bye.
Bye. Peace. Bye. Do your best peace.
Peace.
That was good.